Haven't you ever wanted to be a fly on the wall and hear the conversations that real estate agents and mortgage lenders are having when the doors are shut? In today's episode, we are going to discuss the topics that realtors and lenders don't want you to hear. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus. You are tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and my main man,
JC
John Coleman.
Dio, what is popping?
We are back in the new studio.
God, what's in a controlled environment?
I like that controlled environment because I had a great time in Ohio.
Shout out Ohio for the first time ever.
Yeah, shout out to Ohio for the first time ever, showing Ohio some love. You and I traveled up to Columbus, and we participated in Lower's annual sales conference. And while we were there, we recorded four
bangers, as
they
you
are
would say. Really
good episodes, and one of them has already dropped. That was the one that we did with the top producer, Lauren Walton. Yeah, with Lauren Walton. Phenomenal story. And we're going to drop one of those episodes a Monday, probably for the next 5 weeks. I'm thinking we should go, we dropped Lauren's, then we're going to drop probably the one we do with Dan Snyder.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, well, he is the founder and CEO of Lower.
No big deal.
He's a 43-year-old mortgage executive and one of the few mortgage executives who has ever successfully raised venture capital financing from Silicon Valley, which is like the best VC firms come out of Silicon Valley. And we interviewed Dan because I wanted to hear directly from the horse's mouth, what is that journey like? What is Dan's vision of the mortgage industry? Why'd he go raise this money? And more importantly, what does he plan on doing with the money that he raised? Okay, then we'll come back and we have a continuation of our top producer series because this dude, John Cornish, out of freaking Iowa, crushes it. I mean, absolutely kills it. So we feature John on the podcast. I pick his brain. How'd he do it? What has he learned along the way? And what excites him about the future? And then right after that, I mean, this lady is a mega producer. I'm talking, I think she's going to do like 130 million this year.
That's a lot.
Yep. So Patty Newby out of Texas. And we feature Patty. And what I love about Patty is 60% of her business comes from home builders. And what I love about Patty is she did a career transition. So she worked in a different profession for 20 years before she enters the mortgage industry. And her whole story is a how-to guide for anybody who is contemplating switching careers and how they can follow in her footsteps and not just have success. I'm talking wild success.
Mega success.
Yeah, so you guys are going to want to keep on tuning in, and we'll be dropping those episodes every Monday. But today is the first day you and I get to record back in Orlando, Florida.
I know.
And I'm excited about that. I really am.
Too. You know what threw me for a loop, though? When we pulled in, I didn't realize the parking lot would be full because when we moved in here and did the first episode, it was like the hurricane, so it was empty.
Right.
And I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be easy. And I pulled in, I was like, what the hell are all these cars doing here?
Yeah, you know what? I noticed that, too. I didn't put two and two together. And by the way, for anyone who turned into, let's just call it the lost episode or the hurricane episode, guess what? We're still here. Well, let's jump into it because I teased the audience.
Yeah.
And really the audience I'm hoping for is less loan officers. I want home buyers tuning into this.
They need to hear this
right?
message,
I want this episode to be the community's loan officers and realtors serve tuning in, because at the end of the day, we call this the Loan Officer Podcast, but man, this is the shit they don't talk about in school. This is like Dave Ramsey, Joe Rogan have a baby, and you and I get to sit down and be that baby. So it is real estate and mortgage inspired. But honestly, the show, if you go back and listen to the 490 episodes that we've done, for the most part, these are lessons, business lessons, life lessons, sales lessons that were learned because 20 years ago I became a mortgage loan originator. So if you're looking to buy a house, I want you to know certain things that, look, most realtors and most lenders aren't telling you. Right? And they're not telling you because it's like a big secret. They're just not telling you because for whatever reason, they don't feel like it's their place to put it, or they feel like it's something that they just keep inside of their walls and doesn't need to leave externally.
Because if they told the consumer what was up, they feel like the consumer wouldn't need them, thus letting the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, the consumer, you do need realtors and you do need lenders. So sorry to burst your bubble. Okay, just bursted it. But let's start with, I'm gonna start with lenders, right? Because that's what I know the best.
That's what you are.
I'm gonna be straight with y'all. you can always find cheaper. I don't care what your lender tells you about their rate and their fees. Whatever that lender told you, you can go somewhere else and find cheaper. And then whatever that lender tells you, you can always go somewhere else and you can find cheaper. And you can keep going down that circle of death spiral until you have found the rock bottom dirt cheapest. But here's what I've learned about in life. I get what I pay for. And when I'm talking about my mortgage, there's a certain experience that I'm anticipating, a certain level of professionalism that I'm demanding, a certain level of advice that I need to make sure that I get A, the right loan, and then B, that it actually closes on time. Because if I don't close on time, I could lose the house altogether, which means I could have not anywhere to live if I've already maybe given my notice to my landlord.
Right.
I've given some kind of a deposit on the home that I'm buying. I could lose that deposit, and you're talking like $3 to $10,000. And plus, I've spent money on things like home appraisals and home inspections. And there's another $1,000 I don't get back if I don't actually close on my loan. So when the consumer is making all about finding the cheapest, I don't care what your lender tells you, they're not the cheapest.
So, okay, because usually when people say they want something cheap, they're afraid of overpaying for the service or product. Is there a way to overpay for like the loan or mortgage? Can you overpay?
Yeah, I think we all have a certain value, or we have a value system as a consumer, right? There are some people that first class is the only way that they'll travel, regardless of cost. They value that luxury at such a high level. That's how they roll. You have someone like me that I love traveling first class, but I have caveats. A, I don't do it with my children. So it's something only my wife and I would do. B, if the first class ticket is double the cost of one of the better coach seats, I won't do it. Like, so I have a certain like value. I won't shop at Walmart, but I will shop at Target. Right? So I'm not like so bougie. I don't do any of those stores. I only go to the finest. And that's me as a consumer. I love a Courtyard Marriott. I don't know if I need a Ritz. Don't get me wrong. Ritz-Carltons are super nice. And if I can get a Ritz at $500 a night, or I could get the Courtyard at $390 a night, I may go Ritz. But Ritz at $1,000 versus a Courtyard at $390, am I really getting that much extra value for that? And I think that's going to change consumer to consumer, and also the seasons of life that I'm in, depending on where I am mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and financially. I think as a consumer makes that up. So yes, you 100% could go to a lender who charges $1,000 more in fees than is necessary to pay, and whose interest rates are easily the highest in the market, and they're not providing any additional value, or we have what's called the law of diminishing returns. Like, whatever additional value they're getting, it's not worth what you're paying. So yes, I think there's always a way that you could overpay and not have the value returned to you.
Because I think that's how consumers feel, as someone who's never gone through the motion of actually purchasing a house. When something's that expensive, you want to cross every T and dot every I. So naturally, it's like when you're walking in to buy a car. Like, I don't believe the salesman what he's saying. I always think I can get a better deal. So it's always like that give and take of like, are you really telling me the truth, or are you just trying to hustle me?
Yeah, well, I think in general, especially our generation, we tend to be more cynical to begin with.
All right.
Right. So we're already cynical. We're already skeptics. So we're looking out for someone trying to screw us over. Mm-hmm. But what I found is rarely are people truly trying to screw us over. You know what's trying to screw you over? Those damn
wall panels.
Wall panels. You promised me they wouldn't fall. You promised me if I found you a better space in downtown Orlando that we wouldn't have this issue. All right, I'm just going to add that to the list, John.
And here's a message from our sponsors. Artificial intelligence, automation, AI, it's here to stay. And if you're not aligned with the technologies that are utilizing AI today, you will quickly find yourself behind the 8 ball. Y'all, our friends over at ADM have done it again. This time, it's with AI. This is gonna blow your mind. ADM's AI allows you to prioritize your leads. It's like having X-ray vision for your leads. Which ones are worth your time today and which ones can wait for tomorrow? ADM Intelligence leverages AI to analyze a combination of 5,000 plus third-party consumer behavior data points, and CRM data. They will determine which of your leads are most ready to transact. Think of the value this will bring you. Take away all of the wasted time chasing the leads that'll never convert. And now you have a system that is pointing you towards the leads with the highest probability of actually paying you today.
I'm going to add that to the list. We're going to keep going because I just did one for lenders, but I want to talk about, here's something that realtors won't necessarily come out and just tell you. They only get paid when you do a transaction with them. Like, think about that. If you're a real estate agent, you're going to invest hours, if you're any good, into your client, right? Hours into interviewing them, getting to know them, putting together the search criteria, then meeting them at properties, walking the properties with them, introducing them to all the trusted experts that they're going to be introduced to, whether it's a good lender, a good insurance agent, a good home inspector. And at the end of the day, they are trusting in you, the home buyer, that you are serious about wanting to purchase real estate or serious about wanting to sell real estate. And they will only get paid when the transaction closes. Which is why, and this is kind of topical because we had the NAR Commission lawsuit happen this year, which is why when someone looks at what a real estate agent makes and they're like aghast, like, oh my God, I can't imagine, wow, who's worth $15,000? Like, wait a minute. In life, you get what you pay for. You wanted to enter into a financial agreement with a professional that you weren't willing to pay up front. Like, where else can you do that? You can't do that with like the guy who paints your house. Hey, I'm only going to pay you if I like how it turns out. No, like that dude wants half the money up front. He wants you to go to Home Depot or Sherwin-Williams and buy all the paint, and then he'll collect the other half when the job is done. We as home buyers and home sellers, we're not paying real estate agents up front anything. Therefore, when they earn their commission, they're earning their commission, and it may be $15,000, and you maybe think they did $8,000 worth of work, but you paid extra because you also didn't have to commit to anything up front. And I don't think enough agents and realtors are willing to actually have that type of a conversation with the consumer. But I think as a consumer, you should know that. And then you should be okay with that. Now, there's certain consumers that they know their market. They know how they operate. They know at the end of the day what the value is that they place on being represented. And sure, there's nothing wrong with someone saying, I'm not paying more than X. I'm not paying a buyer's agent more than 1.5% to represent me. I'm not paying a listing agent more than 4% to list my house. Okay, there is a certain, like, I'm not saying you have to pay 3% or list your house for 7%. Like, there's going to be a perceived value. But the fact that they only get paid when the transaction funds, I think every consumer should understand, and then understand how that operates or cooperates with the ultimate fee that is collected or paid, because it's only collected and paid on a fraction of the consumers that come through and actually list their home for sale or actually have a buyer's agent take them around town making offers. Because if those offers never get accepted, if the financing never goes through, if the transaction never funds, then there was no commission to be earned.
Do realtors get played at the end, like similar to loan officers? Meaning, like they'll get up to like the last 12th hour, and then a home buyer will be like, "Yeah, I don't want to use your services anymore. I'm gonna go with this realtor," and then close like that. Does that ever happen?
Well, yes and no. So you wouldn't get to the 11th hour and then change realtors, because more than likely you would have executed a buyer broker agreement.
Okay.
So that buyer broker agreement protects that agent from that buyer having the agent do all of the work, and then right before the transaction closes, they bail.
Right.
But the agent will do all of that work, and right before the transaction closes, the person decides they don't want to buy the house, at which point there's no compensation. Right now, granted, I'm not a realtor. Maybe some of these new buyer broker agreements would state you still will owe me some kind of a dollar amount that's negotiated up front, but traditionally, no. Just like if I listed your home for sale and I did 3 open houses and I brought in my staging crew and my my videographer, and my team did all this work to get it marketed and listed in the MLS. And all of a sudden, after 3 months, you're like, you know what? We decided we don't want to sell. Oh, okay.
What? Are you sure? I got it.
Yeah, like think about the amount of time.
Right.
Like imagine you going to work and you're making $50 an hour. You go to work and you work for, I don't know, 8 hours. And your employer's like, yeah, we're just not going to pay you. You're like, no, but I worked for 8 hours. Like that's worth $400. And they're like, nope, not going to pay you. Like that is essentially what you're asking real estate agents to do. Like you are the employer because you are the client. You're paying them ultimately the commission, but you're only going to pay them if they perform. But them performing may not even be them performing. Maybe you changing your mind. So, nonetheless, when you have a realtor who, it seems like, they're pushing me to buy this house. I'm like, no, they're pushing you so they can get paid. They're pushing you because they know what is out there. They do this for a living. And if they feel like you're being not realistic, it is their job to let you know that they're being not realistic, that you're being not realistic in your expectations.
How many bad experiences have you had either personally or professionally when buying a property with realtors that you just don't like or just bad taste in your mouth? Have most of your transactions been like, for the most part, like good or?
How about this? I've only purchased 2 homes in my entire life. Looking for a third home, let's say. I'm not a good customer. Like I'm not. I am easily annoyed. I'm skeptical.
So exactly
I'm cynical.
What we're describing.
Yes. But I'll state this. If the realtors that helped me buy my first house in 2004 were still around, I would still recommend them. But in that transaction, I did not like the fact that I was at the closing table. And I had a $395 transaction fee on my, at the time, we called them HUD-1s, but settlement statement, that I looked at them and like, what is this? Oh, our brokerage makes us charge that. But it was on page 9 of the contract. Did you not see it? And that's how they got snippy with me. I'm like, you should have fucking highlighted that shit. You should have circled it, highlighted, and had me acknowledge that, hey, by the way, when you get to closing, I know I told you that my commission was being paid for by the seller, but there's a $395 transaction fee. That left a bad taste in my mouth. And that was in 2004.
Clearly, I could hear the vitriol in your voice.
Yeah,
you haven't forgotten.
And I was a young lender. I think I'd been in the mortgage industry for maybe 3 or 5 months. I just got out of training, so I didn't know what I was doing. Had I known what I was doing, obviously, when I bought my next house, and I bought my next house probably about 5 or 6 years later. And even in that one, I have some I can't remember the actual what transpired, but something transpired where, my agent said something to her broker, and her broker, he felt the need to call me to set the record straight or, but at the end of the day, I love my realtor. Shout out to Susan Blue. Susan's quasi-retired now, but I mean, Susan has helped my family. She's helped my friends. It didn't get in the way of our relationship at all.
What happens when a realtor needs to buy a house? Do they use another realtor?
No, they use themselves. Yeah. They will use them. Now, if a realtor's trying to buy a house in a market they don't know, right? I'm a realtor in Orlando and I want to buy a home in Denver. I think a really good professional realtor probably finds a really good professional realtor in Denver and uses that really good lender or that really good realtor.
I look at these professions, realtor and loan officer, like competing frat houses on fraternity row. You have to get along with the Greeks, but it's different. And they have their own way of doing things, but it's a very secluded thing, and you have to membership, and you have to do things to be accepted.
You mean the relationship between lenders and realtors?
No, between lenders and lenders, just the whole ecosystem of home economics. Realtors are like Greek row, and then lenders are sci-fi beta or some shit.
Well, so similar to that note, what realtors won't tell the consumer is that a really good realtor has great relationships with other realtors in the market.
Really?
Yeah, a really good realtor has great relationships with other realtors in the market. So think about this. You're selling your home and I'm buying a house. You're represented by a real estate agent. I'm represented by a real estate agent. They are our representatives. They're acting on our behalf. They're advocating for us. Okay. my agent, if they know your agent and they've worked well together in the past, this transaction is going to be a smooth one. This transaction is going to be easier for us to negotiate. It's going to be easier for us to, because you have to negotiate multiple times. How about that? Maybe that's something that's not talked about.
Really?
You negotiate multiple times. Yeah. There's 3 opportunities. Let's call it 4. There's 4 opportunities for a home buyer to negotiate. The first time is upfront on the initial sales price. Then you can negotiate after home inspection. Then you can negotiate after appraisal, and you can even negotiate after walkthrough. Now, it's not normal that you'd ever negotiate at all 4 spots, right? Everyone's going to negotiate at the initial sales price. Once you negotiate that, you will get a home inspection. And if you're the home buyer and you don't like some of the things that you see on the home inspection, you give yourself an opportunity to either get out of the contract or to negotiate or renegotiate. You're going to have the home appraised, especially if you're getting financing, because the lender's going to 9 times out of 10, 95 times out of 100, they're going to mandate that the home is appraised. The appraisal is going to tell you the value of the home. The inspection tells you the condition. So they're 2 separate things. Appraisals are not inspections. Inspections are not appraisals. But let's say the appraisal comes in low. Well, you may go and renegotiate based on a low appraisal. And then you're going to do what's called a walkthrough. And a walkthrough is me walking through the house before we actually fund it. And I want to see what type of condition is John going to leave this house into me. Well, if it's in shit condition, it's dirty, there's shit everywhere, and John's not planning on moving it out.
I must have just ran a triathlon. That was a joke.
Then there's a good chance that I may be like, dude, I'm not closing. There's a good chance you're like, well, I need you to close. I need that money. I'm like, okay, well then you got to do something for me, dude. Give me a $500 closing cost credit because this house is trashed. I'm gonna have to hire a professional cleaning. So just understanding there are 4 opportunities to negotiate that if the person representing the buyer gets along well and works well with the person negotiating the seller, imagine how much smoother those negotiations could go.
Right.
Not only that, but like when you're in a situation where you're getting multiple offers, like a multiple offer situation, which might not be happening in Florida and Texas right now, but it will be. It's currently still happening up in the Northeast. When you're in a multiple offer situation, there's a lot of things that go into consideration of which offer is the best. Because best offer, ready? Here's something else they won't tell you. The best offer is not necessarily the offer that has the highest sales price.
Explain, please.
Like that is not necessarily the best offer. The best offer is the offer that gives me, the seller, the most confidence that I'm actually going to sell this property and it's actually going to close on time. So we'll start there. Well, who is representing the buyer matters to that seller. Now, the seller doesn't know, but that's why the seller is represented by their own agent. And that agent, their job, if they're really good at what they do, is to know who does good work in this market. Well, if you're unknown or what is known of you is not positive and you're trying to advocate on behalf of your buyer, that's a knock against the buyer that their agent is either unknown or that their agent has a bad reputation. Because all of a sudden, if you're in a multiple offer situation, you better believe that that listing agent is presenting all offers and they're walking through the pros and cons of all offers. Hey, John, I have great news. This offer is all cash, but it's the lowest offer we have. However, it has no inspection contingency and no appraisal contingency, and they're willing to close in 2 weeks. Okay, the seller has to consider whether or not it's the best offer for them. Because what is best, right? You keep your house at 82 degrees. That's what's best for you. I keep mine at 73. It's what's best for me. You're not wrong and I'm not right. Same thing goes with that seller. So the agents knowing each other, having a good working relationship, that goes into play. Hey, here's another offer, John. I know this agent. Dude, she is great to work with. She controls her clients. Her shit closes. I know this lender because this agent and this lender, they work a lot together. And I've actually had plenty of transactions with this lender and their company. They know their shit. They do a great job. Yes, I know this offer is $5,000 less than the other offer, but this offer is more than the cash offer. It's $5,000 less than this third offer, but I know that agent, I know that lender, which means it gives me confidence that we're going to close on time and you're going to get your money. This next offer, lender, never heard of. I try to look him up online. I think they're newly licensed. I think he's brokering loans out of his basement. And this realtor, I think this realtor doesn't do it full time because I also see that they are, the manager at Subway. The offer is for $5,000 more. It is. But John, you get to choose what's the best offer. Okay, well in this, you get to choose. You may be like, $5,000, I want that money. I'm taking the risk. You may be like, I want the lowest offer. I want the cash because I am a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. Me, I'm taking the middle offer. That's how I roll. That's what I think would be best. I'm fine making $5,000 less if it comes with more certainties. And I don't want to take the lowball cash offer because I'm confident in my realtor who I hired to be the professional, to be my advocate. I'm confident that the odds are forever in my favor that this thing will close because the buyer's being represented by a great agent. And that agent has recommended a solid lender. So these are all things that I don't think this conversations are being had with potential home buyers and home sellers that, we need to use this platform to get this messaging out. It's funny. We talked about realtors not getting paid until the transaction closes. Y'all, your lenders, 9 times out of 10, they only get paid when your transaction closes. Think about that. You might not know that. They might not be telling you that. They talk about that when the doors are shut. But they're not talking about that openly, and you should know that. Your lender does not want to make lending difficult. Your lender does not want to ask you for that page 9 of your bank statement or for you to write a letter of explanation why your mom transferred funds into your bank account then added to your bank account. They don't want to do that shit. They want to get paid. But the regulators mandate that everything has a paper trail, that everything is explained. And your lender, for the most part, is doing a ton of work for you up front for free. Everything from the credit check to your pre-qualification, your pre-approval, the advice they're giving, the questions they're answering you at 9 p.m. on a Sunday via text. All of that is done with good faith that you are going to use them and their company to actually fund your loan. If you end up using another company, you basically ask somebody to work for free, share with you all of their experience, all of their ideas, and then you went somewhere else with it. That's your prerogative, but that's just how you roll. If you end up saying, we're just going to rent for another year. Okay, well, all the work that lender put into it, it gets kind of stuck in purgatory. Their hope is that in 9 months you call them back and they can pick up where they left off. But your lender is not getting any money until your transaction closes. Now, that's not your problem. That's the profession that they chose. But I need you to understand that if you're the consumer, because that may go into your thought process for who you select and who you're loyal to. And it's also understanding that your lender does not want to make things any more difficult than they have to on you. So please, keep that in perspective. And then a caveat is yes, there are definitely some lenders out there that they may pay their loan officers minimum wage. They may pay their loan originators a small base salary. But for the loan originator to make the money they're trying to make, it is production and performance based, which typically goes down to loans that they funded. So I think that's something that the consumer doesn't necessarily know, and they should know.
You know what? We should give you a platform where you go around the country, maybe even the world, Dustin, and educate people who are ignorant to the laws and rules of home ownership.
I would love to do that, John. In fact, if anyone is ever looking for me to come in and teach a class or give a webinar, whether it's on home buying, investing in real estate, or just being a better mortgage lender, that's what I do for a living. Right? I'm a business coach to mortgage sales professionals. I do sales training for loan originators and mortgage brokers. And I sure as shit can help people navigate the home buying process. I've done it over 1,500 times in my career. I would love to do that. And y'all should probably look our way. You can look me up on LinkedIn, first name Dustin, last name Owen. You can always go to our website, which we're currently rebooting and redesigning. Hopefully we'll be relaunching it by the end of 2024. But the website and the web address isn't going to change. That's tloponline.com, TLOP online.com. If you're tuning in on audio only, please know we have an entire YouTube channel the TLOP YouTube channel. TLOP stands for the Loan Officer Podcast. Go subscribe to that. We have a homebuyer playlist. We have a shit they don't teach you in school playlist. We even have a playlist that's truly like business coaching in 5 minutes or less. There are a bunch of 5-minute training videos that are ideal for people who run their own business. So make sure you do that. If you are a mortgage loan originator and you have not signed up for our newsletter, go to the website, tloponline.com, sign up for the newsletter. It is free to do. It comes out every single Thursday. Plus, by being a part of our newsletter, you get invited to exclusive monthly sales webinars that we do for free. And then finally, if you're in a place in your career where you know that nothing changes if nothing changes, and you got to make some changes if you're ever going to be the professional you want to be and make the money you desire, check out what we're doing at the TLOP MLO coaching community. It is thebomb.com. It is the jam. Dollar for dollar, bang for buck. It's the best investment. We were talking about value earlier. I'm a value guy. We drop so much value. It's me, it's 5 coaches, 8 live coaching calls and sales training calls per month, plus an entire library of training videos and downloadable resources. You can have access to all of that for the entire year for less money than what you make on just one commission check from one loan closing. It's the best value out there. It's the TLOP MLO coaching community. Make sure you're being coached. Make sure you're putting yourself around other people who are also achieving at a high level, because iron sharpens iron. On that note, he's John Coleman. I'm Dustin Owen. You've just tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast. That's all the time we have for you today, but we do look forward to catching you on the next episode.